cloudless night sky greets me when I walk out of the cafe. Beyond the tall buildings, a blanket of stars spreads out before me. Isabella once told me that the best place to view it is someplace outside the city, away from the noise and the obtrusive lights. She'd seen it once in her mom's hometown and another time in the university she used to attend. Then she asked if it's possible to try it out here sometime. I agreed with her at the time, if only because she appeared excited at the mere prospect of it. We made those little plans along with Zachary and Ashton. We never got around to it before. Now we've all lost the chance. Even so, I find myself enjoying this, despite being told it's only half the experience. Little things, you know? Stuff you learn to appreciate when you're alone. Because at certain times you get to meet people who are unfortunately born with the innate talent to ruin the mood and the scene with their mere existence alone. For example, the very driver of the car fast approaching my direction. Luckily he doesn't notice me, but the fleeting moment we pass each other by gives me a brief glance at the people he is with. Kylie sitting on the back seat, with a serving of bread pudding in her hands. And beside him, it must be his wife. He takes a turn and disappears at the nearest corner. But throughout the night, that cursory glimpse of all things to bother me has left me wondering what kind of person his wife is. And more than that, is a silent prayer to the universe. I hope I don't ever cross paths with that douche again. The brief lull the past 2 days has offered as nice while it lasted. Or as nice as it can get under the shadow of Isabella's recent passing hovering over our heads. There have been no updates from Ashton either, despite his promise. When he breaks the silence, it's only to deliver a short message from LPD allowing Salem Well's tenants to return to their flats tonight. Somehow with that, it feels like the whole of Luxborn, the whole world even, has at last chosen to move on its own again. Onwards to different, more important things that really matter to the general public. Yet something still lingers.
Like an ugly premonition.
And as expected, just as things start to settle in a steady rhythm finally worms its way back to my routine, Thursday morning brings further disturbance to the now calm waters. With little ceremony though, still enough to ripple through everything. In retrospect, I really should have seen this coming. Luxborn is a small city, relatively speaking. Compared to, say, London or Glasgow, it's nothing but a tiny mass of land boasting a mere population of 68,000. But those numbers alone are nothing to scoff at when staying in a busy street. And if you pay close enough attention, faces taking the crosswalk or riding the subway will soon grow familiar. How unfortunate that out of that number, it has to be Tio fucking Luke I encounter more than once.
Oh, you know, a few problems popping up here and there that the agents failed to tell us somehow. Nothing a few hired hands can't fix, of course. I would have preferred a place near the city and something that's new to save us all the trouble, but darling wife insisted. Who am I to say no?
Ah, are you kidding me?
His smug head is the first thing I see upon turning into the hall, in spite of the small crowd of parents and students gathered at the corridor for the primary's career day. It's not that he stands out. He's pretty unremarkable at first glance, frankly. However, it's his countenance that draws people's eyes to him. The manner he carries himself with all the confidence in the world, his mere presence dwarfing everything around him. I'm willing to make a bet he's also enjoying the attention it garners him, especially the ones coming from the women.
What an ass.
A single glance at him and I immediately know that, one way or another, if we ever bump into each other again, my day will effectively be ruined in some capacity. He also exudes that air. The sort that makes you want to run him over with a flurry and pass it off as an unfortunate accident. With him, it's either you want to punch him or let yourself be charmed. There's no in between. I'll gladly do the honor of the former myself, but alas, there are people around us. Now I'm stuck with having to face one of the two.
I shouldn't have volunteered.
At the time, helping out sounded a good idea. I have no classes left today until after lunch. I could have opted to stay at the teacher's lounge and work on my lesson plans, but that means being left alone with our deputy head and his chatter. He's a good man, but crivens, he can talk anyone's ears off. So the moment an opportunity arose, I jumped on it. It's a simple task to boot. Just deliver a whole box of materials and a few posters for the event. Maybe stay around to assist if time will allow it. I just wasn't expecting him to show up here. Out of the frying pan and into the fire. Had I known, I would have stayed and suffered through our deputy's impromptu speeches about his life crisis instead. But what's done is done. Going back is also out of the question. With how unexpectedly heavy the load I'm carrying is, I'd hate to lug this for a trip back just because my pride can't take another second of interaction with this guy. He's insufferable, alright, but I've had my fair share of dealings with teens of more or less the same temperament, all considerably younger than him, and they listened. If he wants to be difficult like last time, so be it, but he can bet his sorry English ass I'm not standing down. Left with no other choice, I brace myself and suck in a breath, mustering every patience I have as I step into the hall. Just pull the knife and get it over with. My grip on the box tightens when I pull it closer to me, and attempt to assume a low-key air as I amble towards the room. The box is not big enough to hide my face, even with the stuff piled on top, but if all else fails, I can just hit him with it. Still, a small prayer forms in my head. If there's even one listening out there, please grant me enough restraint. Better yet, I hope he doesn't notice me at all. That'll definitely make my life easier. Seriously, how hard can it be? We stay in a few ways from the door, and there are plenty of people between us to use for cover. If I'm careful, I can just go in, hand in the stupid box to whoever's in charge, forget every plan of staying longer than necessary, and step out as soon as I can. Easy as pie. But as luck would have it, the exact moment I reach the room's threshold, someone barrels towards me. She latches onto my waist before topping the sun commotion with a gleeful squeal.
I knew it's you!
The force of it nearly throws me off balance, setting the items stacked atop the box tilting dangerously to the sides. With the child's added weight in my waist pinning me on the spot and both my hands occupied, watching is the only thing I'm able to do. The short seconds in between slows as everything gradually slides off the box's small surface. Under different circumstances, this would have made for a funny story some other time. Comical, even. Until another set of hands reaches out and steadies the posters, threatening to take a nosedive right to the floor. Careful now, Daisy. Don't make a mess here. My entire body freezes. Upon hearing his voice alone, an irrational impulse to hit him immediately bubbles up. But before my limbs could catch up with what my brain is currently screaming at me, he moves to take the burden off my arms. Irritation gives way to surprise, then confusion. It is in that moment when instinct finally kicks in and I tug the box closer to me before he can fully lift it off.
What are you doing?
What does it look like? You're surprisingly slow on the uptake for someone of your profession, aren't you? Bloody, doesn't this school have people for this kind of work? So much for being a center of academic excellence.
I'm going to ignore that slight to my alma mater and my work, because that's not what I'm trying to get at. You know what? Why don't we just rephrase that to something you'll easily understand? Why exactly are you doing this?
Well, you look like you could use a bit of help. Have you seen your face while you were heaving this around?
Mister, I'm pretty sure if there's ever a look on my face, it's entirely because I saw something extremely unpleasant this morning.
Aren't you a ball of sunshine today, Daisy? Having a bad day, aren't we?
Oh, you have no idea.
I'd put it away if I were you. You might scare the children.
You don't have to worry about that. This isn't my department. I was just asked to bring these. Anyway, I can handle this myself, mister. The room's just right over there. Behind you, in fact. Now, if you could please move over and make way, it would do the whole world some good.
Keeping my voice level throughout is a miracle in itself, but regardless of how polite my request is, he doesn't budge. Did what I just said merely flew over his head? Or my choice of words really that difficult to comprehend? Surely it shouldn't be that hard. I think he might be a little touched in the head. I'd like to ask him that, actually, but Kylie chooses that instant to pipe in.
Don't worry, Miss Pink. Tio's strong. You can leave this to him. My papa does it lots of times, but I'm not allowed to talk about it to anyone. Tio says it's
Confidential, Munchkin.
That's right. Teo's smart, isn't he, Miss Pink?
I'm still of the opinion that he's a piece of shit, but I must admit his goddaughter's excitement is contagious as always. A smile makes its way to my lips. She is yet to budge from her place, though to be honest, I'm starting to lose some feeling on my stomach with how tightly she's wound her arms around it.
I'm sure he is, Kylie. But I'm also sure he'll find better use for it elsewhere.
Like helping you out.
Oh, well, that's one thing, but
You heard the kid.
no one's asking you.
You wound me, woman.
And I'm quite certain I can do more damage than that. Shall we give it a try? Again?
He pales, stammers for a bit, until ultimately he decides against saying anything and settles for a brief show of discomfort instead. He's probably having flashbacks of the last time we met. His composure when he finally regains some of his bearings says it all. It's nothing short of hilarious if I do say so myself.
I'll have you know that threats never work on me, Daisy. Not in a million years, not ever.
You're assuming it's a threat. How cute.
But that too, I'm not scared of you. Just because you landed a hit.
Do go on. Keep telling yourself that.
It was a fluke, you hear? I was caught off guard and your damn book left a dent. If I end up in a hospital because of what you did, I'm sending the chief of Luxburn Police after you, woman.
You don't say.
Just give me that bloody box.
He snatches it out of my arms before a single word of protest exits my mouth, and quickly disappears behind the classroom. Not that it matters who brings it in now. My prior irritation has already melted into amusement. He's not so bad once you figure out how his temperament works. It's almost similar to a child. Though I still have to ask.
Kylie, did your Tio eat something bad before coming here? He's unusually nice today.
A far-fetched idea, I know, but it's the only reason I can think of why this asshole is suddenly acting like a decent human he's quite frankly far from being. First and foremost, we didn't end our last meeting on a good note. If I were him, I'd avoid the very person who put a dent on his skull, as he so aptly put it. Why is he acting friendly 2 days later?
He always is. But I made him promise to be extra nice to you since you helped me so much. I think you're gonna be great friends.
I quickly stomp on the urge to groan loudly or gag at that. He's the last person I'd ever want to be chummy with in this whole city, but Kylie doesn't need to know that.
Are you sure it's not something he ate during breakfast?
I gave him some jelly babies this morning. Really brought me lots of them. Mama said I should share, so I offered half of it to Tio when he picked me up. He likes the black ones.
Oh, that's probably why he's weird. Jelly baby overdose.
He could have done everyone a favor and choked on them while he's at it.
Do you want some? I've got more. I couldn't find Melody or Takanko this morning, but I'm sure they'll be fine sharing some of it with you.
No, I'm not really very fond of them. I was just asking. Oh, where's your mum, by the way?
Out of town with Papa.
An unexpected pang hits me at her words. The statement, though innocent enough, unearths a whole trunk of memories from childhood. So eerily familiar. Nights spent eating dinners alone, the number of days coming home to an empty house growing with each passing year, and sometimes several Christmas Eves spent with relatives instead of my own family. It's too late to think about it now, but when I remember, the dull ache is still there, familiar though lessened by the years now. Beside me, Kylie takes a step back, having gotten tired of clinging to me. There's nothing but cheer in her. She doesn't seem too affected by that fact. Although it makes me wonder how much of it is real and how much there is to mask the loneliness, if there's even one. What a lucky child.
Weren't they informed of career day beforehand?
Yeah, I told them all about it. Mama was looking forward to it.
And they still left?
Uh-huh. It's important business, so it can't be helped. They promised to tell me about it when they come back tomorrow, though. Papa said he'll give me a gift if I behave. I've been a good girl, right, Miss Pink?
You always are. But they asked they asked your Tio to look after you? For this?
Nope, they didn't.
No? Then how?
It was supposed to be Tia. Mama likes her better than Tio, so she asked her, but she's sick and had to visit the doctor today. Oh, that's supposed to be a secret, by the way. Oh, but I think it's a bit confusing because Teal said she also went shopping. That's unfair. Don't you think so, Miss Pink? Mama doesn't allow me to go out when I'm sick. It's still okay, though, since Teal always buys me sweets before we go home. I'm gonna ask for a parfait today. Extra large. Don't doubt the caco, okay?
Listening to her like this, it's easy to get a picture of where Kylie's fondness for the guy comes from. She's far from a demanding child. Unless you made a promise of some sort, she never forgets those. She'll make friends with anyone wherever she is. Buy her a few things and voila, you're settled. No wonder she's so attached to the man. The douche probably showers her with gifts whenever he can. I can't say if the sentiment's the same for the latter, however. He doesn't seem the type, and probably just does it for the sake of getting some peace and quiet whenever he's with the girl. Classic techniques.
But before that, I'm gonna show him to everyone first. It's gonna be great. No one else has a gazillionaire fairy godfather. Also, when I grow up, I'm gonna be exactly like him and marry someone really handsome. Like Tia did. That way, I can be awesome too.
There's some sort of misguided logic in there that I'd like to correct. But before I can say my piece, douchebag steps in, fresh from the commotion from the classroom behind us, and plows into the conversation with every subtlety a wrecking ball has. No shit given, despite no one asking for his opinion.
Munchkin, sweetie, trust me. You don't have to marry someone for that to happen.
I don't?
Just do your thing, darling. I'm quite sure you can do great things on your own without lugging around an extra baggage with you.
Tia married you.
Kylie dropped the statement without any sort of preface, and the moment it lands, the douche finds himself grappling with the conversation. Yeah, well, that's true, Munchkin, technically. But it's not the same thing. A small frown creases the girl's eyebrows as she tries to comprehend her Tio's rather vague explanation. It's not surprising either when Luke tenses under the child's questioning gaze. It's familiar. I've seen the same look a great deal of times before, on Ashton whenever he's trying to say something he can't quite phrase. Another second passes before the douche moves, kneeling in front of Kylie and placing both his hands on either sides of her shoulder. Kind is the last word I'll ever use to describe the man, but in this minute there's a smile on his face I can't place. Tender by all means for someone as obnoxious as him. It's a curious thing to see, if not a bit odd. Listen here, sweetie. Tia was already a great person before she met me.
She is? But I don't see her doing anything. She's always at home.
Not always, Munchkin. Did you know she's really good at numbers?
You're good with them too. You helped me with my homework once.
Well, Tia's much better than me. She used to do maths with big numbers.
Oh, like millions?
No, gazillions. And she's really good at it. So much so that her dad let her manage anything that had to do with it. That was even before she met me, too.
Does that mean she's better than you?
Oh, leagues, Munchkin. Way better than I'll ever be. For some reason, I don't think he's still talking about his wife's mathematical prowess as his voice trails off. In fact, if I have not been paying closer attention, I wouldn't have noticed the change in him. The slight shift in his smile, from one that's tender to something wistful, like remembering a memory he's always been fond of but has often kept to himself. And at the fleeting glance of it, a tiny insignificant part of the world somehow also shifts. Opinions changing, impressions moving. You know what? Why don't you ask Tia next time you have homework,
Okay, next time I'll ask her to help out.
See? No need to marry a good-for-nothing bloke.
Can I also tell her to not stay at home anymore? If Tia's good at it, I'm sure she can help you out too. And Papa. He computes a lot of numbers too. Tia can help him.
You go do that. I'm sure she'll love to hear it, Munchkin, even if it's been a while since. Another silence from him. Then, without missing a beat, he turns Kylie around and lightly pats her shoulder, in a gesture to end their conversation right here and there. Probably before he can say other things he's never intended to say or a child is not meant to hear. But off you go first. I think I saw your friend run off to the other classroom. The one with the pigtails? Go say hi to her. You still have those jelly babies to give her, yes?
All right. But wait for me, okay? I've got loads more to show you. They put up my drawing on the bulletin the other day. I'm gonna take you there later. I'll be back.
She soon disappears behind the small crowd, none the wiser to the sudden change in mood around her. Luke straightens as soon as she's gone. The expression on his face grows less kind now that there's no one to reassure. Despite that, a chuckle still escapes me. His head quickly snaps at me, an accusing glare clear in his eyes. Although it's less threatening now, considering what I've witnessed earlier. Funny how one person's impression of someone can easily change with that last-minute detail.
Why are you laughing like that?
Don't mind me. I just saw something surprising today. Don't let it bother you.
Putting it like that won't make me any less inclined to ask. What is it, woman? If this is another one of your threats, I've already told you it isn't going to work on me. That good teacher act isn't going to fool anyone.
What makes you think it has to do with you? I could have just remembered something funny. Not everything in this world revolves around you, mister.
Uh-oh, someone finally told him. His world is now shattered.
I am not daft, Daisy. It's on your face for all the world to see. Now, say it so we can be done with this stupid talk.
I let out another laugh. More to delay than to express any sort of amusement over the matter. In truth, I don't know where to start. One wrong move, one wrong word, and I might offend the man. He is childish enough for that, even if I'm about to say are just mere honest observations. You really think that?
You really think that?
It's an honest question. Because no matter how much I turn it around inside my head, the gap between the man standing in front of me and the idea I have of him just won't connect. Not that the gesture will go a long way with him. Something in his demeanor tells me he's definitely not the kind of man who readily accepts such when they are given to him. Rather, he feels entitled to it from the get-go. As long as you're standing in front of him, he expects it to be there, demands for it when he cannot see it in you. And after all those insults we've hurled at each other, I don't think it'll matter much to him if I point out the ugly truths or brandish it to his face. As expected, it doesn't throw him off in the least, and he merely raises a questioning brow at me.
About what?
About what you told Kylie. And don't you think she's a bit too young for that kind of talk?
Kylie's 6, Daisy, not an infant who still needs help changing her nappy. At her age, she can already handle more than that. Besides, it's better to nip this whole thing at the bud. You know, before she starts thinking that a man's ego defines her self-worth. I certainly don't need someone else to define me. Why should any godchild of mine do? So, do I really think that? Yes. Yes, very much so. Why shouldn't I?
All right, I get it. I'm sorry. You just didn't seem the type to me.
I've intended to end the conversation right there and simply go my way. I no longer have any business here, and our deputy principal's stories sound more enticing the longer I stand here. With the manner Luke's almost ranting, I have a feeling this won't end if I say more. Though thinking about it, I should have left the second he has taken the box from me. Naturally, he doesn't get the hint.
The type. And what, pray tell, would my type be according to your standards, woman?
The sort I'd happily bury alive.
Well, would you look at what's coming out of those pretty little lips? Watch the language, Daisy. You're supposed to be teaching children. What would ever happen to this nation?
You know what I mean.
Oh, and you somehow find that tidbit funny.
A little, I admit. That sort of wisdom is the last thing I expected to come from you. I mean, look at yourself. Pampered and pompous to the last hair. You've probably never been to this side of Luxbourne until a few days ago.
Daisy, just because I'm dressed miles better than the average bloke you see every day, doesn't mean I'm incapable of thinking on your level. Actually, I'm more surprised we aren't on the same page on this. I expected better from someone with enough balls to hit a random stranger with a bloody book. In public, mind you. Someone my goddaughter looks up to, even. Guess you can't have everything in this world,
What? Of course I'm...
Oh, I get it. Running on presupposed notions, aren't we? My, what a dangerous thing to practice for a teacher.
It doesn't have anything to do with...
What is it this time, I wonder? Oh, wait, don't say it, let me guess. What do those random gossips in this bloody city usually say? Oh, right. You probably think I'd go with clingy, spoiled kind, didn't you?
Yes.
What? Where did that... How did you even come to that conclusion?
Oh, don't lie to me now, Daisy. But just so we're clear, if I wanted an arm decor, I'd have gone with the first brainless munter I picked up on the streets. I have standards, you know.
I haven't even said a word. I was just asking what you thought of it.
Oh, but you were thinking about it or else you wouldn't have asked. Might as well get it out of the way,
You are impossible.
So they say. Tell me something I didn't know, Daisy.
You... I really have no idea how anyone with half a brain can put up with you.
Now see, if she were a real Scot, that knife would have come out already and ended this.
Let me speak with your wife sometime. I'd love to ask her.
That last remark just came out. There might be a sliver of truth in it, but I shouldn't have phrased it like that. Even for my own standards or the kinds of person I'm talking to, it's still quite rude. An apology is already at my throat, but the minute I open my mouth, all of what I prepared myself to say dissipates. Lost in the moment in front of me. He has turned his gaze outside, staring at some point past the buildings blocking the view of the sky, equally lost in his thoughts. He's a vexing man under so many standards. However, in this moment, the morning light streaming from the window lends his features a certain air. Softer, less severe than what he often flaunts. I might as well be looking at a different man. There's a tender note in his voice when he finds it, the words muttered under his breath, not intended for anyone but himself. Nevertheless, it reaches my ears, unintentional as it may be.
You're right. She deserves someone far better than me.
All that talk about self-worth makes some sense now. It isn't some profound knowledge he pulled out of his ass. It has come about because he's already been there, likely still stuck in the middle of it. Preaching about your own personal experience is easier after all. Less room for mistakes, more for a dose of self-loathing. What a complicated man. Just when you thought you've already figured him out, he does one thing and says the other. People like him are the most difficult to gauge, far harder to understand. Yet it might be exactly for this reason why some are so easily charmed by him. It's the mystery that catches them, of wanting to find out what underneath that bravado. I won't count myself among those yet. His winning personality isn't exactly my cup of tea. But sometimes once you get a glimpse of what's beyond the machismo, empathizing with the man isn't such a steep hill to climb. If the comfortable silence we now share tells anything, that is. Perhaps this is as close to friendship as we can get. Several insults flung around with a few shared silences in between, and that's not exactly a bad thing. He's not exactly a bad guy either, despite the awkward start we've had. Maybe it's for this reason that I can't resist throwing in a little comment to lift his mood before leaving him.
You know, Luke, you're not such a bad person.
Is that supposed to make me feel better? I'm touched, Daisy.
Take it how you will, but a little attitude change would help. A lot.
Oh, bollocks. Right, of course. Let me know when you're done with your lecture, ma'am.
And you can probably start by not leaving your wife out while you're having some quality time with your goddaughter. Who knows? Maybe that'll help change how the child sees her.
Where did you even get the idea I'm leaving my wife out? Have you ever even met?
No, but I did see her with you two last time.
His indifferent expression quickly dissolves into a confused scowl, while I meet it with matching perplexity. It's only been 2 days. Surely his memory isn't that bad.
What? When was this?
At the cafe, after you left. She was sitting right beside you. Kylie was at the back and you were driving.
Daisy, are you sure you haven't accidentally hit yourself with your own book? Because that damn thing's quite thick, and I'm really getting worried about you. It has only been a few days, and concussions can be dangerous. I suggest you have that checked.
Well, you asked. I just answered. It's pretty rude to make her wait like that, by the way.
How can I make her wait when she's not even with us?
What?
It was just Kylie and I that night.
Now you're just pulling my leg.
Luke exhales long and drawn out, his impatience rapidly changing the companionable air around us. In the face of it, I tense. I've accidentally stepped into another minefield. Any chat I've had with him so far has been like this. Why this still surprises me escapes me, but above my worries of offending the man is my own bewilderment. I remember well enough what I saw that night, yet he says something completely different.
Wifey was out with Kylie's mummy that night. She wasn't with us. How do you think I ended up on babysitting duty?
But in the front seat. And Kylie's...
Miss Pink!
Kylie's sobs reach my ears first, and then her familiar weight returns around my waist again. Hot tears seep through my blouse as she buries her face in it, her arms winding tightly around me. Luke and I briefly exchange worried glances, his own lips shut tight with concern. Her cries are soft enough not to attract much attention. Most of the visitors have been ushered into the rooms by now anyway. Those that still linger, though, watches our little group with great interest and concern. If I don't get a better handle of the situation, I have a feeling Luke will start yelling at everyone soon. Kneeling, I gently pull the girl away from me, cupping her face and wiping away tears, creating little trails on her cheeks. Her mouth is drawn into a miserable pout when she peers up at me.
All right, Kylie. Calm down. What happened?
It's my friend!
That's a little too vague, Munchkin.
Let her speak, Luke. Who is it, Kylie? Melody? Or was it the other one?
Yeah.
Did the two of you fight?
She nods, then immediately clams up after, letting her sobs communicate the story instead. Or as much as her shaking shoulders can tell me. Right behind me, Luke gives a nervous huff while he shifts on his feet. He must not be used to handling children crying. What a wuss.
Sweetie, I won't be able to help you if you don't tell me what happened.
Seconds pass before she responds again. The tears are already gone when she finally musters the strength to talk, her cries subsiding to mere sniffles.
I wanted to give her the rest of the jelly babies, but she won't come out.
Where? Where is she?
In the little girl's room.
Is she still there?
Another nod.
She won't say what's wrong. I kept asking her, but she told me to go away. Career Day's going to start soon. I saw the prizes Miss Alice will give us if we're good. She's gonna miss it.
Is that what you told her?
Yeah, she won't listen. She won't even take the jelly babies. After I saved it for her, too. She and Luke wanted to eat the red ones, but I told them it's not for him. Miss Pink, can you talk to her? Tell her to come out, and I'm really upset with her.
Ah. Just a little childish argument then. Times like this, I'm glad I teach teenagers mature enough for petty squabbles. I do love being around children and won't mind having one or two of my own in the future, but it takes a whole different level of patience to teach several of them. I honestly admire my colleagues who willingly took the challenge. Normally I'll leave this for their homeroom teachers to fix, but I can't just ignore the imploring look she shoots me. That's another weakness I'll have to steel myself against before I ever think of having one of my own. For now, I give in to it.
Okay. Tell me where she is, sweetie.
Sighing, I stand up and gesture for her to lead the way. Luke trails quietly behind us. Even with a small distance in between, his apprehension is palpable, understandably so. No one wants to be caught in the middle of a children's spat. But in the end, this is all just a part of my job. I can't just shy away from it, can I? Kylie escorts us to an adjacent hall. At this hour, the corridors and the rooms lining its sides are empty, save for the gentle rustling of leaves, the twittering of birds outside, and the tapping of her foot against the floor. The whole area stays eerily quiet. Not unusual, though. This is the part of the building reserved for club activities at the end of the school day, and with the rest of the school busy with another event, it's only natural for it to be this deserted. Come afternoon, right after class, it'll once again be filled with people. For the time being, I focus on the toilets at the far end, heading straight for it. Luke stays behind, opting to wait for the end of this drama instead, obviously not wanting to deal with another person's kid. Meanwhile, Kylie follows right after me, unusually silent as we approach the ladies' room. Sometime before we made the turn to this hallway, she has stopped sniffling and started singing a tune under her breath.
London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London Bridge is falling down.
Probably to brace or calm herself,
lady.
or maybe this is her way of preparing to pull her friend out of her sulk. It certainly reminds me of another person. I make no remarks on it, however. It's all part of growing up, they say. Let her learn. The door's slightly ajar when we get to it, and from inside the sobs of a girl echo weakly, barely audible even in this kind of hush. Turns out Kylie's not the only one upset about this. Despite the situation, a smile forms on my lips as I call out to her friend.
Hello? Hello there? You're Kylie's friend, aren't you? Melody, is it? She's looking for you.
Children can be so amusing sometimes. Granted, they can be exasperating, especially around this age, but the endearing things around them outweigh those. All you need is enough level of patience.
Career day's about to start, too. You'll have to come out, or you're going to be really late for it. Miss Alice won't be happy if one of her kids isn't there. I heard she brought little gifts for everyone who'll behave. Don't you want to receive one?
However, her cries show no signs of abating. They only grow louder. Not close to a wail. Alarming regardless.
Are you okay?
From where I'm staying, it sounds almost like she's in some kind of pain, and it's not impossible. They do that at times, hiding what ails them for fear of a reprimand. If it's like that, coaxing her out might be useless. It also makes sense why she chose the loo furthest from their classroom. Wasting no time, I gesture for Kylie to wait and amble towards the door, calmly so I don't alarm her. At the same time, a distinct sense of deja vu hits me. I've been in this position before, behind a door with someone crying on the other side. My calls ignored as their cries grow into a wail. Just this past week, actually. So real quick, if you don't remember this is when she was in the house, if you remember. Ermengarde Mansion, that is, during the open house. She was going to walk in through the door, but then Rose stopped her. That's what they're referring to. Even so, being in the same situation before doesn't bring any comfort. I'm putting up for the child beside me. Is the thick undercurrent of worry trickling into my stomach. I take one last breath, then I nudge open the door. It all happens in the span of a second. I don't make it past 2 steps into the room. Her cries abruptly stop. Light footsteps shuffle behind me, coming to a halt at the door. My heart skips a beat, and when I turn...
Kylie?
Miss Pink? Miss Pink? Why didn't you help her?
My whole body becomes motionless at the sight of her, words catching my throat and heart pounding rapidly against my chest. This is Kylie, I'm sure of it. Yet nothing in the manner she speaks or the way she tilts her head in question carries the youthful, innocent vibe she always brings with her. As if I'm merely looking at a dead, hollow imitation of the child.
Can't you hear her? She's asking for your help.
But it is not those that trigger memory. It's those chilling eyes, calling, beckoning.
Why won't you listen to her?
All at once, the memory returns to me. A tide that has receded and now returns to shore with an overwhelming force, carrying images of a single moment from days ago. Of a world passing by in a blur, and of features I can barely discern under the little light there was. Not even a week has passed. In this minute, while I keep my eyes trained on the child before me, they return with such unbearable clarity. There are also no horrid wounds this time, no blood streaming down a pale face, thank heavens. Just lips contorted into a small, twisted smile. They brim with venom I've never expected to see in a child, sending tiny pinpricks of dread crawling up my limbs and winding up my neck. You're a bad person. People like you deserve to die. I can't breathe. Those whispers and laughters again. Judging, mocking, taunting. Each scathing word ringing sharp and true against my ears. My throat closes in. My whole body tenses. A chill settles at the tips of my fingers, every digit gone rigid from the cold. With every single draw of breath, any struggle for air or freedom, the coils wrap around my body tighten, dragging me down. A gradual, torturous descent into another bottomless abyss. On, and on, and on, until I lose touch with myself in the world. darkness claims me, and unexpectedly a note. In the distance, harsh and piercing, cutting through the thick stupor and shattering the haze without warning.
Are you ladies done with your business here? I'll have all morning to wait for you two.
My eyes snap open and the world shifts into place with a ragged gasp. When I glance up, a different set of eyes greet me.
Are you okay, Miss Pink?
No anger. No vile hatred in them. Just plain, sincere concern. Bit by bit, I become aware of my surroundings and myself as warmth steadily slips back to me. I've reached out for the nearby counter to steady myself at some point, and my knuckles have gone white from how rigid my grip on it is. It's over now, yet the tension hasn't left my body. My heart still hammers hard against my chest in an erratic rhythm, and my breathing still comes in short, shallow bursts. Before me, Kylie fumbles with her hands, utterly unsure of what to do to an adult in what's probably a laughable state.
Did you get sick? I'll call Tio, okay? Stay here and don't move.
No. No need. Just leave me alone.
Tio will know how to fix you. Oh, wait, okay?
I wish I can speak reassurances to her, but I can't shake it off. The dread is there, twisting at my insides in anticipation. Of what? I am no longer sure. Pushing myself off the counter, I break off into a run. Brushing off the anxious look Kylie gives me, when I gently push her away on my way out, or the furrow on Luke's brows when I stumble into him outside. Whatever they both saw on my face, I care not to know. Bloody hell, I don't even understand what's happening anymore. The tremors continued long after the last of my classes have ended. Although none of my students have commented on it, I've caught a few sharing anxious glances every time a pen slips from my hand or my shoulders tense whenever called. How unusual it must be for them to see the normally composed Miss Gales become a bundle of nerves. Even the most boisterous ones have given me less grief today. You think being on the fourth cup of tea would provide any sort of comfort? Or is this the fifth? Egad, why does counting matter now? The fact that I can't easily shake it off this time should tell me something. The last time this happened, I passed it off as some lapse in my part, after having been sick the week before.
And it is a natural conclusion.
Those are just stories, a centuries-old lore passed by the locals to keep children in line. What place doesn't have those? One of my Da's books even went as far as to describe them as a strong part of Isabella's culture. Tree giants, women who feed on unborn children straight from a mother's womb. Or hell, there's even that one story about a demon baby. So I think some of these are actually explained in Dread Out. That's the Fatal Frame type game I was talking about in Zach's chapter. Maybe I should do that one for Halloween. All folklore that never had a smidgen of truth in it, most probably told to scare off the natives back in the old days. Much like every other one in every other place. The world is more universal than people care to think. But looking at it from where I'm standing now, after staring right into the eyes of that woman, after all the things I've been hearing and feeling, perhaps there's really more to that bloody letter than some awful Halloween prank.
Perhaps Isabella's right all along.
A terrible thing, if true. Though that thought doesn't linger long, thankfully. Soon the ringing of my mobile takes my attention away from it. An unfamiliar name flashes before me once the screen lights up, and my brows knit together. Marian McCullough. Staring hard at the screen, I try to remember when I've entered this person in my contact list. It takes a moment, but when it clicks, my eyes zero in on the book lying wide open on my table. Loaned out from the library almost a week ago. I met the woman there by sheer coincidence, a fellow history buff apparently. We were after the same book, but in the end she's given it to me under the condition that I call her once I'm done. To be honest, I've completely forgotten about it until now, and, well, I haven't really taken a peek at it until today. Normally I'd be done with the whole volume of this size a few days after taking it out, about one or two depending on how busy I am. But finding a chance to sit down and read through it has been more difficult lately than I anticipated. One moment I'm busy simply grading worksheets, attending a movie premiere the next, then someone's suddenly inviting me out for one reason or another. Days later, a friend ends up murdered, and I'm looking down at her lifeless body. There simply isn't enough time to breathe and get a grip on things. I have been flipping through the pages of said book moments ago, though never really reading anything and merely hoping for a distraction. To no avail. My phone goes on another ring, and this time I do not hesitate to answer.
Marian?
Hello! Here I was starting to wonder if it was a bad time to call. Is it?
No, not at all. I dismissed my last class a few minutes ago. I'm pretty much free for the rest of the afternoon. Unless something comes up. Is this about last time? The book?
Not really. I was hoping to ask you about some other thing.
Oh, sure. What about?
You grew up in this city, didn't you?
It's a peculiar question to ask someone you just met, but I answer her nevertheless. I'm more curious where she's heading with this by starting with that.
Born and raised, third-generation migrant. Why do you ask?
So, you must be familiar with the local lore. The, stories?
Quite. If I'm going to teach about history, I'd like to think I am, yeah? But a family friend would be a better person to ask. If you want, I can contact him for you.
No, let's just keep this thing between us, okay? It's nothing too big. Alright. I really don't know how else to put this without sounding a bit crazy. But things have been really, odd. Do you remember the mansion I mentioned back when we met? My current project?
In hindsight, I should have expected her to lead to this. She must not have lived here long if she's just asking about this now. It didn't take a week with Isabella when she arrived, but that's Isabella, superstitious down to the last hair. Though it won't be too far off to think Marian has only started thinking about this recently. She's working on the damn house itself. I must admit, even I'm curious now, despite living there for so many years and having so many chances to look it up before.
The Ermengarde Mansion, yes?
Yes, that one. And, the thing is... Oh dear, this is a bad idea. You know what? Just forget I ever called you about this.
It must have been the sunny weather. It's making me sick and see stupid things. See things?
No, wait. It's all right. I don't mind.
There's a moment's pause before she responds again. She's right in that. This is a silly thing to talk about, especially between what I assume two people who are pretty grounded on their beliefs with regards to these things. I won't blame her if she hesitates.
I can't believe I'm asking you about this.
It's fine. Why don't you just think of it as some form of research?
Well, all right. But after this, we're going to forget we ever had this talk.
My lips will be sealed. Now, what is it about the mansion?
Just, what do you know about it? The general gist. The place's past. What happened to the owners? Anything you can give me.
Let's see. To start off,
I do my best to give her a concise summary, from the time the house was commissioned 400 years ago and who had it built, up to the point it got deserted after the last heir's death, and the deed was passed on the Ermengarde's nearest relatives. Frankly, if it weren't for those urban legends persisting, the house would have already faded into obscurity a long time ago. Demolished even. These are all nothing she probably hasn't heard of before, yet there's dissatisfaction in her tone once I finish.
That's all there really is to it?
as far as I know. There's this little bit I forgot to mention about Lady Charlotte Ermengarde's death, but most of those are just theories. Aside from that, this is really everything we've been teaching all these years. Should there be anything more?
No mention of any other weird stuff? Other crazy stories? Or a letter of some sort?
My blood runs cold. Any warmth and comfort the tea I drank has given me prior has instantly been drained out of me. The phone creaks softly as my light hold on it turns into a firm grip. This whole letter bullshit is starting to turn into more than a coincidence.
None that I've heard or read of. What does a letter have to do with this?
Oh, no. It was just something I came across. Ignore it. random thoughts, you know? By the way, I need to run. Thanks for answering my questions.
She ends the call abruptly with only a clipped goodbye, leaving my mind heavy with even more thoughts. The mood around my classroom has gone considerably denser, in light of what I've gleaned from that conversation. I don't think Marian's lying about her intent. Her interest is genuine, I'd give her that, but she's left a lot of things out. I get the sense she's only asked because something's happening around her too, and if she hasn't mentioned the letter, I probably wouldn't have made the connection.
Just what the hell did we get ourselves into?
Of course, there's still a lot of confusing details in this. All of these are just assumptions. No concrete conclusions be formed with what we have, and if we want to find out what we're really dealing with, I think Marian's right. There might be something more to those stories, as absurd as it sounds. The very place that gave us that letter might tell us something beyond what we know. And tomorrow night, I have a few hours of that chance at the housewarming party. Totally not an exciting thought, since the place is privately owned now. I can't just wander around. But it's enough reason to keep the dread at bay as I step out of the room, ready to put an end to this day. However, all those good vibes disappear into thin air when I run headfirst into Luke. There's really something in this man. Regardless of how much my opinion of his changed over the span of a few hours, he simply blasts through every good impression people has of him without care or thought. He doesn't even need to open his mouth, his mere presence does it. In all honesty, I think he's the kind of guy only a mother can love.
You're still here?
Obviously. Who do you think's standing in front of you?
An ass.
Oh, come on, Daisy. You've done better than that. Losing your touch?
It's been a long day. Give her a break.
Luke, I don't have time for this. I'm heading home, and your face is the last thing I want to see before I leave.
Yep, with all that tea she just drank, that's gonna be a lot of vomit. I feel sorry for the guy who has to clean that up.
What do you want?
Belatedly, I notice his hand. Partly raised, almost poised for a knock. At a slight lift of an eyebrow, he quickly drops it to his side and turns to Kylie. She's staying a few steps away from him, holding her hands behind her back and towing at something on the floor with the tip of her shoe. Then he proceeds to make vague gestures at me and the child. He resembles a fish flopping for air with the way he's moving his arms, though I think he's trying to urge her to speak up.
Munchkin, I thought you wanted to tell her something.
You do it, Tio.
This wasn't my idea, darling.
Don't worry. I won't tell Tia what you told me the other day. And this morning.
Luke exhales, rolling his eyes at the ceiling, and maybe praying for the universe to grant him more patience. He knows a losing battle when he sees one. He may act worse than a 5-year-old throwing a tantrum at times, but he's no match for an actual child. Nothing better than being served a dose of his own medicine, huh? Once his frustration has been promptly let out, he points a rude finger at me. I do my best to stare the offending digit down, but I can already hear the demand before it's even out of his lips.
You, come with us.
What makes you think I will?
Because little Rugrat here is upset and worried, and it's your bloody fault. I've no idea what happened this morning, but if you don't come with us, I won't be hearing the end of it from her. So do me a favor, Daisy, and just be glad I'm inviting you.
You're asking for a favor, and you can't be bothered to be polite? I don't know. It's been a really busy day for me. I kind of miss my couch.
Daisy, you just say yes.
A pause follows, almost too dramatic. Afterwards, his face twists into something between a grimace and a smile. As it happens, he appears like he's in a lot of physical pain. You think the man is getting an aneurysm by simply being polite.
Please?
Tio said it'll be his treat.
What? I said no such thing, Munchkin. I only agreed to this because you requested it. I'm under no obligation to feed her.
I promise we'll be quiet the next time I visit.
Oh, all right, but just one meal and make it the cheapest.
He and Ashton will get along famously on that department. On a different front, the offer of free dinner does sound enticing, however half-heartedly given it is. Mostly because Kylie has wisely put on her puppy eyes, and by the second I find all my choices slipping away from me.
See, Miss Pink? It'll be fun. You don't have to feel sad anymore, okay?
Oh, well,
My mobile buzzes from my pocket, cutting me mid-sentence, and for a second I'm spared from the act of giving an answer I'll regret either way. Fishing the gadget out, I wave a hand at him and excuse myself. A disgruntled expression is on Luke's face before I turn away. I'd be lying if I said it didn't amuse me. He's as eager to be done with this as I am, but what can I do? Checking a message from Ashton shows up. Hey Becca, I'll be around Salemwell this evening. Need to meet someone in the area. Thought I might have to drop by yours and Isabella's place after. See ya. Just the usual. Unlike what he does to Zachary, Ashton has the decency to let us know when he's dropping by or he's in the area for some business. From the way it's phrased, it sounds to be the latter. Either way, I'm glad he's at least aware of that boundary. Not that Isabella's ever going to let him leave the building unscathed if he ever pulls the same stunt he does with the other man. I cringe to imagine what she'll do to him. Except she's no longer there, if that scenario ever comes to pass. Sighing, I slip the gadget back in my pocket. But looking up to see Luke's utter impatience on his face, I now face a different dilemma. The two of them are still waiting, and knowing the kind of person Luke is, this is already a grand gesture of goodwill coming from him. All to please his godchild. His denials aside, it's easy to tell he's really fond of Kylie from his actions alone. I kinda hate to ruin that.
Well, Daisy, we're waiting here.
On the other hand, there's Ash. His message doesn't exactly imply he's going to wait, or he's expecting me to be there. But there are matters I hope to discuss with him in person, to put it simply. Housewarming party matters. With inviting Isabella out of the question, I only have Zachary and Ashton. Although the former's already made it clear he'll be busy this week, and well, Ashton has been my first choice from the start. Even if he detests attending gatherings like this, it's company that counts. We can be miserable together. But that's the problem, isn't it? He hates them, and it's very likely his answer will be a flat no. I'd rather not hear that. If by some miracle he agrees to it, he'll probably be sulking the whole party. Not really a tough choice when you put it like that. Still. Like, this is tough because either way, this seems like it'll work out for the better one way or another. This will make things better with Luke, this will make things better with Ash. There isn't really a someone loses route, which I find really, really heartbreaking. Anyway, let's break the kid's heart. Though when you look at it closely, it isn't such a difficult decision to make. First and foremost, no matter where I look at this, it is inappropriate to some degree. Disregarding Luke's honest intentions, I've only known the man for a grand total of 2 days, including today. If I'm going to be thoroughly specific, I'll give it a grand total of around 10 hours. By all means, that's not enough reason for me to join them for dinner, even if he says Kylie's the one who requested it. To other people, it won't appear as innocent as he makes it out to be. And if there's one ugly thing about this city, it's this place's penchant for inane gossip. One little spark, it will spread like wildfire. Who knows how far it'll go, how many ears it'll reach. What if Ashton hears about it? I'd rather not think about the consequences to that. I've got enough on my plate lately as it is. Being at the center of a rumor mill along with this man, in whatever form it takes, sends unpleasant chills down my spine. My answer must have already shown my face as Kylie's smile immediately dissolves into a pout.
You're not gonna join us, are you?
Maybe next time, Unlocked.
I'm sorry, Kylie. I'd love to, but I have other things to do. Another time, maybe? A friend just texted me about something urgent, and he wants to meet tonight.
Just say it's a date, Daisy. The little rugrat will understand. She's not an infant. No need for blatant lies.
Heat instantly crawls up my face at his baseless insinuations. Oh, what I would give for another chance to put a real dent on his skull.
What even gave you that idea? And even if it is, why do you care? Stop sticking your nose in other people's affairs.
Oh, your face says it all, woman. You think I won't recognize those longing looks?
There isn't a look, you There isn't a look, all right?
Sure, whatever helps you sleep at night, Daisy.
You already have a story written inside that head of yours, don't you?
Oh, please. It's not that interesting.
It's more like a picture book.
The color of your face does suit you, though. Matches the hair. Well, come on now, Munchkin. I'll just buy you an extra glass of that parfait.
With extra strawberries?
I'll get you a basket full if you want. As long as you behave. And no complaints if they don't have enough syrup again. Deal?
Deal. Have fun with your date, Miss Pink.
Luke's already leading the child away before I can correct her. Upon reaching the end of the hall, however, he doesn't miss the chance to shoot me another one of those infuriating winks. Does he really think women enjoy those? I'd sue him for harassment if I can. Though I must admit, the two of them walking together hand in hand is an endearing sight in itself. It's something to mull over, along with every other confusing and frustrating thing about this guy. Some other time, though. Ashton's waiting. And waiting is what you will have to do, I'm afraid.